Welcome to another story on Cheating Tales Lab. We're so happy to have you here, and today's story is one we think you'll really enjoy. So without further ado, let's begin. The aroma of freshly baked cinnamon rolls wafted through Brenda's cafe, mingling with the rich scent of coffee. Blake and Kate inhaled deeply, savoring the familiar smells as he settled into a worn leather booth with his family. His sister Brenda bustled over, a pot of steaming coffee in hand. "The usual for everyone?" Brenda asked, her eyes twinkling. Blake nodded, reaching for Vanessa's hand across the table. His wife's fingers were cool to the touch, her wedding ring glinting in the soft morning light. "You know us too well, sis." 12-year-old Ellie piped up. "Can I have extra whipped cream on my hot chocolate, Aunt Brenda?" "Me too," 8-year-old Noah chimed in, not to be outdone. Brenda laughed, ruffling Noah's hair. "You got it, kiddos. But don't tell your dentist." As Brenda headed back to the kitchen, Blake turned to Vanessa. "How's work been, hon? That new development keeping you busy?" Vanessa's smile seemed a touch forced. "Oh, you know how it is. Always another house to show, another deal to close." She glanced at her watch. "Speaking of which, I should probably head out soon. I've got a client meeting at 10. Blake's brow furrowed. "On a Sunday? I thought we were going to take the kids to the park after breakfast." "I know, I'm sorry." Vanessa's tone was clipped. "But this could be a big sale. You understand, right?" Before Blake could respond, Ellie interjected. "Mom, you promised you'd help me pick out an outfit for picture day tomorrow." Vanessa's expression softened as she looked at her daughter. "Oh, sweetie, I forgot. Tell you what, why don't you and I go shopping this afternoon? We'll make it a girls' day out." Noah's face fell. "But what about the park?" Blake forced a smile, trying to salvage the situation. "Hey, buddy, how about you and I have a guys' day instead? We can shoot some hoops in the driveway, maybe fire up the grill for lunch. What do you say?" Noah's eyes lit up. "Can we invite Uncle Mike?" "You bet," Blake agreed, tousling his son's hair. He looked at Vanessa, a hint of disappointment in his eyes. "I guess we'll see you this evening then." Vanessa nodded, not quite meeting his gaze. "I'll try not to be too late." Brenda returned with a tray laden with steaming mugs and plates piled high with fluffy pancakes and crispy bacon. As she set the food down, she shot a questioning look at her brother. Blake shook his head slightly, silently communicating that everything was fine. As the family dug into their breakfast, the conversation turned to lighter topics. Ellie chattered about her upcoming science fair project, while Noah regaled them with tales of his latest Little League game. Blake found himself relaxing, pushed his earlier concerns aside, and focused on enjoying this moment with his family. When breakfast was over, Vanessa gathered her things and stood to leave. She kissed the kids goodbye, then pecked Blake on the cheek. "I'll call you later, okay?" Blake nodded, watching as she hurried out of the cafe. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, but he pushed the thought away. They had a good life, a happy family. He was probably just being paranoid. Brenda slid into the booth next to him as the kids cleared their plates. "Everything okay, little brother?" she asked quietly. Blake plastered on a smile. "Of course. Why wouldn't it be?" Brenda raised an eyebrow. "You're not fooling me, Blake. I've known you your whole life. Something's bothering you." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It's probably nothing. Vanessa's just been working a lot lately. I'm sure it'll calm down soon." Brenda squeezed his shoulder. "Well, you know I'm always here if you need to talk, or if you need someone to knock some sense into that thick skull of yours." Blake chuckled, grateful for his sister's support. "Thanks, Brenda. I'll keep that in mind." As they left the cafe, Blake couldn't shake the nagging feeling in the pit of his stomach, but he pushed it aside, focusing instead on the day ahead with his kids. 2 weeks later, Blake found himself elbow-deep in the engine of a beat-up Ford, the familiar sense of motor oil and grease filling the air of his workshop. The radio crackled in the background, playing an old country song he hummed along to absently. The sound of heels clicking on concrete caught his attention. He looked up to see Lisa Grant, Vanessa's best friend and colleague, approaching with a hesitant smile. "Hey there, Blake," Lisa called out. "Got a minute?" Blake wiped his hands on a rag. Curiosity piqued. "Sure thing, Lisa. What brings you by?" Lisa fidgeted with her purse strap. "I was hoping to catch Vanessa. We were supposed to meet for coffee, but she's not answering her phone. I thought maybe she was here with you." Blake frowned. "She told me she had a late showing today. Said she wouldn't be home until after dinner." "Oh." Lisa's brow furrowed. "That's odd. She specifically asked me to meet her at Brenda's cafe at 4. Said she needed to talk about something important." A knot formed in Blake's stomach. Maybe there was a mix-up with the dates, or a last-minute client. Lisa nodded, but she didn't look convinced. "Yeah, must be. Well, if you see her, can you tell her I stopped by?" "Of course," Blake agreed, forcing a smile. As Lisa turned to leave, he called out, "Hey, Lisa, has Vanessa seemed different to you lately?" Lisa paused, biting her lip. "Different how?" Blake shrugged, trying to keep his tone casual. "I don't know. Distracted, maybe? We haven't been spending much time together lately, and I just wondered if something was going on at work." Lisa's expression was unreadable. "I'm sure it's just the stress of the job, Blake. You know how it is in real estate. There's always another deal, another client." Blake nodded, not entirely satisfied with the answer. "Yeah, you're probably right. Thanks, Lisa." As Lisa left, Blake couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. He pulled out his phone, debating whether to call Vanessa. His thumb hovered over her name in his contacts before he thought better of it. He was probably just being paranoid. The next evening, Blake found himself at O'Malley's, a local bar, with his buddy Mike. They'd just finished a pickup basketball game, and Blake was nursing a beer, trying to unwind. "So, how are things with you and Vanessa?" Mike asked, taking a swig of his own drink. Blake shrugged. "Fine, I guess. She's been working a lot lately." Mike raised an eyebrow. "You guess? That doesn't sound like the Blake I know. What's really going on?" Blake sighed, fiddling with his wedding ring. "I don't know, man. Something just feels off. Vanessa's always busy, always distracted. We barely talk anymore, and when we do, it feels like she's a million miles away." "Have you tried talking to her about it?" Blake shook his head. "Every time I bring it up, she says it's just work stress. But I can't shake this feeling that there's more to it." Mike leaned in, lowering his voice. "You don't think she's, What, cheating?" Blake scoffed, but there was a hint of uncertainty in his voice. "No way. Vanessa would never do that. We've been together since high school." "People change, Blake," Mike said gently. "I'm not saying she is, but maybe you should trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is." Before Blake could respond, his phone buzzed. It was a text from Vanessa. "Working late again. Don't wait up." Blake stared at the message, a sinking feeling in his stomach. He looked up to see Mike watching him with concern. "Everything okay?" Mike asked. Blake forced a smile. "Yeah, just Vanessa letting me know she's working late again." Mike's expression softened. "Look, man, I hope I'm wrong, but maybe you should do some digging, for your own peace of mind, if nothing else." Blake nodded, his mind racing. "Yeah, maybe you're right." As they left the bar, Blake couldn't shake the nagging doubt that had taken root in his mind. He loved Vanessa, trusted her completely. But what if Mike was right? What if people really did change? He decided to swing by Vanessa's office on his way home, just to check. As he pulled into the parking lot, he noticed her car was gone. The knot in his stomach tightened. Blake pulled out his phone, hesitating for a moment before dialing Vanessa's number. It rang several times before going to voicemail. "Hey, it's me," he said after the beep. "Just wanted to check in. Give me a call when you can." As he hung up, Blake caught sight of a familiar figure across the street. It was Curtis Blackwood, a local mortgage broker he'd met at a few of Vanessa's work events. Curtis was climbing into his flashy sports car, a smile on his face. Blake watched as Curtis drove off, an uneasy feeling settling over him. He couldn't put his finger on why, but something about seeing Curtis there at this hour set off alarm bells in his head. As he drove home, Blake's mind raced with possibilities. He tried to push away the doubts, to focus on the trust and love he and Vanessa had built over the years. But the seed of doubt had been planted, and try as he might, Blake couldn't ignore the nagging feeling that his perfect life might not be so perfect after all. A week later, Blake found himself sitting across from Hank Morrison, a private investigator recommended by a friend. The detective's office was small and cluttered, with filing cabinets lining the walls and a worn leather chair creaking under Hank's weight. "So, Mr. Kincaid," Hank began, his voice gruff, "tell me why you're here." Blake shifted uncomfortably. "I think my wife might be involved with someone else." Hank nodded, his expression neutral. "What makes you suspect that?" Blake took a deep breath. "She's been working late a lot, always on her phone. We barely talk anymore. And last week, I saw her colleague's car parked near a hotel when she was supposed to be at a showing. Have you confronted her about it?" Blake shook his head. "I want to be sure first. I don't want to accuse her of anything if I'm wrong." Hank leaned back in his chair. "All right, here's what I can do. I'll tail her for a week, gather some evidence. Photos, recordings, the works. But I gotta warn you, Mr. Kincaid, sometimes the truth ain't pretty." Blake nodded, his jaw set. "I need to know, Mr. Morrison, whatever it is." As Blake left the office, his phone buzzed. It was a text from Vanessa. "Hey, honey, got a late meeting. Don't wait up for dinner." Blake's hand tightened around the phone. He typed back a quick, "Okay, love you," before pocketing the device, his heart heavy. The next few days were a blur of anxiety and suspicion for Blake. He found himself analyzing every word, every gesture from Vanessa, looking for clues. She seemed oblivious to his inner turmoil, going about her days as usual. On Friday evening, Blake's phone rang. It was Hank. "Mr. Kincaid, I think you should come to my office. I have something you need to see." Blake's heart raced as he drove to Hank's office. When he arrived, the detective was waiting for him, a grim expression on his face. "I'm sorry, Mr. Kincaid," Hank said, sliding a manila envelope across the desk. "But you were right to be suspicious." With shaking hands, Blake opened the envelope. Inside were photos of Vanessa and Curtis Blackwood, caught in intimate moments outside a motel. There were timestamps, locations, all the damning evidence laid out in stark black and white. Blake felt like he'd been punched in the gut. "How long?" he managed to choke out. Hank sighed. "Based on what I've gathered, at least a few months. Maybe longer." Blake nodded numbly, his world crashing down around him. "Thank you, Mr. Morrison. I need to go." As he drove home, Blake's mind raced. How could Vanessa do this? To him, to their family? He thought about their children, about the life they'd built together. It all seemed like a cruel joke now. When he pulled into the driveway, he saw Vanessa's car already there. Taking a deep breath, he steeled himself for the confrontation ahead. He found her in the kitchen, humming as she prepared dinner. The sight of her, so casual, so normal, made his blood boil. "Hey, honey," Vanessa said, smiling as she turned to greet him. Her smile faltered when she saw his expression. "Blake? What's wrong?" Blake slammed the envelope on the counter. "Why don't you tell me, Vanessa?" Vanessa's face paled as she opened the envelope, her hands shaking as she looked at the photos. "Blake, I can explain." "Explain what?" Blake's voice was low, dangerous. "Explain how you've been lying to me for months, how you've been sneaking around with Curtis Blackwood behind my back." Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry, Blake. I never meant for this to happen." "Never meant for what to happen?" Blake shouted, his composure finally breaking. "Never meant to cheat on me? Never meant to destroy our family? It's not like that." Vanessa cried. "You don't understand. I felt trapped, suffocated, Curtis. He made me feel alive again. Blake laughed bitterly. And I made you feel what? Dead? Was our life together so terrible that you had to go looking for excitement elsewhere? Vanessa's expression hardened. You want the truth? Fine. Yes, I've been seeing Curtis. And you know what? I don't regret it. He understands me in a way you never have. Blake felt like he'd been slapped. What about our kids, Vanessa? Did you think about them when you were busy feeling alive with Curtis? Don't you dare bring the children into this, Vanessa hissed. They have nothing to do with it. They have everything to do with it. Blake roared. You didn't just betray me, Vanessa. You betrayed our entire family. Vanessa's eyes flashed with anger. You want to know why I did it? Because I'm sick of this life, Blake. Sick of the same routine, day in and day out. Sick of being nothing more than a wife and mother. Is that what you want to hear? Blake stared at her, feeling like he was looking at a stranger. So what now? You want a divorce? Vanessa lifted her chin defiantly. Maybe I do. Maybe it's time we both admitted this isn't working anymore. Blake felt a surge of determination. Fine. You want out? You got it. But don't think for a second that I'm going to let you take my kids away from me. We'll see about that, Vanessa sneered. I'm their mother. The courts always side with the mother. We'll see, Blake echoed, his voice cold. But I promise you this, Vanessa. I'm going to fight for my children with everything I have. And I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of person you really are. As he stormed out of the kitchen, leaving Vanessa staring after him, Blake felt a mix of emotions churning inside him. Anger, betrayal, heartbreak. But underneath it all, a steely resolve was forming. He would not let Vanessa destroy his life. Blake sat in his truck, parked outside a modest suburban home. His hands gripped the steering wheel tightly as he stared at the front door, gathering his courage. Finally, he took a deep breath and stepped out. As he approached the house, the door swung open. A woman with kind eyes and a hesitant smile greeted him. Mr. Kincaid? She asked, her voice soft. Blake nodded. Mrs. Blackwood, thank you for agreeing to meet with me. Marissa Blackwood ushered him inside. Please call me Marissa. Can I get you something to drink? No, thank you, Blake replied, following her to the living room. I appreciate you taking the time to see me, especially given the circumstances. Marissa's smile faltered. You said on the phone that you had information about my husband, about Curtis. Blake sat down, his expression grim. I do. And I'm sorry, but it's not good news. He pulled out the envelope of photos and handed it to Marissa. Her hand shook slightly as she opened it. What is this? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Evidence that our spouses have been having an affair, Blake said, his tone gentle but firm. Marissa's eyes widened as she flipped through the photos. No, she whispered. This can't be real. Curtis would never. I'm sorry, Marissa. I didn't want to believe it either. But the truth is, my wife Vanessa and your husband have been seeing each other for months. Marissa looked up, tears in her eyes. How did you find out? Blake sighed. I hired a private investigator. I had suspicions, but I needed proof. And now you have it, Marissa said, her voice hollow. Why are you showing me this? Why not just confront them? Blake leaned forward. Because I think we can help each other. They betrayed both of us, Marissa. Don't you think they should face consequences for their actions? Marissa's expression hardened. What did you have in mind? I want to expose them, Blake said. Not just to us, but to everyone. Show the world who they really are. Marissa hesitated. I don't know, Blake. That seems extreme. Is it? Blake countered. They've been lying to us, sneaking around behind our backs. They've made fools of us. Don't you think they deserve to know how that feels? Marissa stood up, pacing the room. But what about the children? Your kids, my stepchildren. Won't this hurt them too? Blake's expression softened. I've thought about that. But in the long run, I think they'll be better off knowing the truth. And we can protect them as much as possible from the fallout. Marissa stopped pacing, turning to face Blake. What exactly are you proposing? We use social media, local gossip. We spread the word about their affair. Make sure everyone knows what they've done. And then what? Marissa asked. Blake's eyes glinted with determination. Then we watch as their perfect little world comes crashing down around them. Marissa was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. Okay, I'm in, but we do this my way too. No unnecessary cruelty. We stick to the facts. Blake stood, extending his hand. Deal. We'll make them regret ever betraying us. As they shook hands, a silent understanding passed between them. They were no longer victims. They were becoming the architects of their own revenge. So, where do we start? Marissa asked, a new resolve in her voice. Blake pulled out his phone. We start by making a few calls. I think it's time we had a chat with some mutual friends. As they began to plan, the air crackled with a mixture of pain and purpose. The web of revenge was being spun, and soon Vanessa and Curtis would find themselves hopelessly entangled. The next morning, Blake's phone buzzed incessantly with notifications. He picked it up, a grim smile playing on his lips as he scrolled through the flood of messages and comments. It's working, he muttered to himself. Just then, his phone rang. It was Lisa. Blake! Lisa's voice was shaky. What's going on? There are all these posts about Vanessa and Curtis. Blake took a deep breath. It's true, Lisa. All of it. Vanessa's been having an affair with Curtis for months. There was a long pause. Oh my God, Lisa whispered. I can't believe it. I mean, I knew something was off, but this... I'm sorry you had to find out this way, Blake said. But I thought you deserved to know the truth. No, I'm glad you told me, Lisa said, her voice hardening. I can't believe Vanessa would do this. To you, to the kids, to me. I thought we were friends. Blake seized the opportunity. Lisa, I hate to ask, but I could use your help. The divorce proceedings are going to start soon and... Say no more, Lisa cut in. I'll testify. Whatever you need. Vanessa doesn't get to play the victim here. After hanging up, Blake dialed Marissa's number. How's it going on your end? He asked when she picked up. Marissa's voice was tight. It's chaos. Curtis's phone has been ringing nonstop. He keeps trying to deny everything, but the evidence is pretty damning. Good, Blake said. Let them squirm. Have you heard from any of his colleagues? A few, Marissa replied. Most of them are shocked. Some are angry. I think Curtis's reputation at work is taking a serious hit. Just then, Blake's doorbell rang. I've got to go, he told Marissa. Keep me posted. He opened the door to find Vanessa standing there, her face a mask of fury. How dare you, she hissed, pushing past him into the house. How could you do this to me? Blake closed the door calmly. Do what, Vanessa? Tell the truth. Vanessa whirled on him. You've ruined everything. My career, my reputation. Do you have any idea what you've done? I think I do, Blake said, his voice cold. I've exposed you for who you really are. A liar. A cheater. This isn't just about us. Vanessa shouted. What about the kids? Did you think about how this would affect them? Blake's eyes flashed. Don't you dare bring the kids into this. You lost the right to play the concerned mother card when you decided to sneak around with Curtis. Vanessa's shoulders sagged. What do you want from me, Blake? I want a divorce, Blake said firmly. And I want full custody of the kids. Vanessa's head snapped up. No, no way. You can't take my children from me. Watch me, Blake growled. I've already spoken to a lawyer. With the evidence I have, plus character witnesses like Lisa, you don't stand a chance. Vanessa's eyes widened. Lisa? She's testifying against me. Blake nodded. Turns out, people don't like being lied to. Who knew? Vanessa sank onto the couch, her head in her hands. This can't be happening. Oh, it's happening, Blake said. And it's only going to get worse. I suggest you lawyer up, Vanessa, because I'm not backing down. As Vanessa left, her face pale and defeated, Blake felt a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. This wasn't how he'd imagined his marriage ending, but he was determined to come out on top. His phone buzzed again. It was a text from his lawyer, Angela Martinez. Saw the social media storm. Good work. Let's meet to discuss next steps. Blake typed back a quick reply, then sat down at his computer. He had a feeling things were about to get even more complicated. A week later, Blake found himself in a dimly lit bar, nursing a beer as he waited. The door swung open, and a man in a sharp suit walked in, glancing around nervously before spotting Blake. "Mr. Kincaid?" the man asked, sliding into the booth across from him. Blake nodded. "Mr. Doyle, thanks for meeting me." Frank Doyle, Curtis's business partner, looked uncomfortable. "Look, I'm not sure why I'm here. If this is about Curtis and your wife." Blake held up a hand. "It's related, but not in the way you think. I have information you might find interesting." Frank's eyebrows rose. "What kind of information?" Blake leaned in, lowering his voice. "The kind that could save your business, and maybe land Curtis in jail." Frank's eyes widened. "What are you talking about?" "Curtis and Vanessa," Blake said slowly, "are planning to embezzle money from your firm. They're going to use it to start a new life together." Frank's face paled. That's a serious accusation. Do you have proof?" Blake nodded. "I do. But before I show you, I need to know, are you willing to help me stop them?" Frank was quiet for a long moment, his fingers drumming on the table. Finally, he spoke. "What do you need me to do?" Blake smiled grimly. "Play along. Pretend you're on board with their plan. Let them think they're getting away with it." "And then what?" Frank asked. "Then we catch them red-handed," Blake said, "with enough evidence to put them away for a long time." Frank ran a hand through his hair. "This is insane. I could lose everything if this goes wrong." "You could lose everything if you do nothing," Blake countered. "At least this way, you have a chance to save your reputation and your company." Frank sighed heavily. "All right, I'm in, but I want to see that proof first." Blake pulled out a USB drive and slid it across the table. "Everything's on here. Emails, bank statements, recorded conversations. Take a look, and then we'll talk strategy." As Frank left with the USB, Blake felt a mix of anticipation and dread. The trap was set. Now all they had to do was wait for Curtis and Vanessa to spring it. The next day, Blake met with Marissa in a quiet coffee shop. "How did it go with Frank?" Marissa asked, stirring her latte absently. Blake leaned back in his chair. "Better than I expected. He's on board. Now we just need to let Curtis and Vanessa hang themselves." Marissa nodded, her expression troubled. "I still can't believe they would go this far. Embezzlement? It's like I never knew Curtis at all." "People can surprise you," Blake said grimly, "and not always in a good way." Just then, Blake's phone buzzed. It was a text from Frank. Curtis took the bait. Meeting set for Friday to discuss investment opportunity. "What's our next move?" Blake showed the message to Marissa. "Looks like things are moving faster than we thought." Marissa's hand shook slightly as she set down her cup. "Are we really doing this? Setting them up to go to jail?" Blake's eyes softened. "We're not setting them up, Marissa. We're just giving them enough rope to hang themselves. They're the ones choosing to break the law." Marissa nodded slowly. "You're right. I never thought I'd be in this position." "None of us did," Blake said. "But we have to see it through now, for our own sakes and for the kids." As they left the coffee shop, Blake couldn't shake the feeling that they were approaching a point of no return. The web of revenge was tightening, and soon, Vanessa and Curtis would find themselves hopelessly entangled. Later that evening, Blake received another call from Frank. "They're moving fast," Frank said without preamble. "Curtis wants to transfer the funds this weekend." Blake's heart raced. "Can you stall him?" "I've tried," Frank replied, frustration evident in his voice. "But he's insistent. Says they need to move quickly before anyone catches on." Blake paces living room, mind racing. Okay, here's what we do. Let them think it's happening, but we need to alert the authorities. Can you do that without tipping them off? Frank hesitated. I think so. I know a detective in the white-collar crimes unit. I can give him a heads up, make it look like a routine audit. Perfect, Blake said. And Frank, thank you. I know this isn't easy. After hanging up, Blake called Marissa to update her. It's happening, he said when she answered. This weekend. Marissa's voice was tight. Are you sure we're doing the right thing? Blake sighed. Honestly, I don't know, but I do know that what they're planning is wrong. And if we don't stop them, who will? As he ended the call, Blake looked at a family photo on his mantle. It showed him Vanessa and the kids, all smiling happily. It felt like a lifetime ago. I'm sorry it came to this, he whispered to the picture, but you left me no choice. The trap was set. Now all that remained was to watch it spring shut. Blake's phone rang early Monday morning. He answered groggily, Hello? Blake, it's Frank. You need to turn on the news. Now, fully awake, Blake fumbled for the remote and switched on the TV. His eyes widened as he saw the headlines scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Local business rocked by embezzlement scandal. A young reporter with determined eyes filled the screen. This is Emily Green, reporting live from outside Blackwood Mortgage Services. In a shocking turn of events, Curtis Blackwood, the company's founder, has been arrested on charges of embezzlement. Blake's phone buzzed with a text from Marissa. Are you seeing this? He quickly typed back, Yes. Can you come over? 20 minutes later, Marissa arrived, looking pale and shaken. I can't believe it actually worked, she said, sinking onto Blake's couch. Blake nodded, his expression grim. Frank came through. He tipped off that reporter, Emily Green. Marissa's eyes widened. How did she get all the details so quickly? I may have had something to do with that, Blake admitted. I reached out to her last week, gave her some background on the situation. Blake, that was risky. What if she had gone public before we were ready? He shook his head. I didn't give her anything concrete, just enough to pique her interest. She did the rest on her own. Just then, Blake's phone rang again. It was Lisa. Blake, have you seen the news? It's everywhere. Vanessa's been arrested too. Blake's heart raced. What? When? Just now, Lisa replied. I saw it happen. They came to her office and led her out in handcuffs. It's chaos here. As Blake hung up, he turned to Marissa. They got Vanessa too. It's really happening. Marissa's face was a mix of emotions. Do you think we went too far? Before Blake could answer, there was a knock at the door. He opened it to find Emily Green standing there, notepad in hand. Mr. Kincaid? I'm Emily Green from Channel 5 News. I was hoping I could get a statement from you about the arrest of Curtis Blackwood and Vanessa Kincaid. Blake hesitated, then nodded. Come in, Ms. Green. I think it's time the whole story came out. As Emily set up her recording equipment, Blake and Marissa exchanged a look. There was no turning back now. Mr. Kincaid, Emily began. Can you tell us how you first became aware of the embezzlement scheme? Blake took a deep breath. It all started when I discovered my wife was having an affair with Curtis Blackwood. As I dug deeper, I uncovered not just infidelity, but a complex web of lies and financial fraud. Emily leaned forward, her eyes gleaming. And how did you gather the evidence that led to today's arrests? It wasn't just me, Blake said, gesturing to Marissa. This is Marissa Blackwood, Curtis's wife. We worked together, along with Curtis's business partner, Frank Doyle, to expose the truth. Marissa spoke up, her voice shaky but determined. We couldn't stand by and watch them destroy lives and steal money from innocent people. We had to act. Emily turned to Marissa. Mrs. Blackwood, this must be a difficult time for you. How are you coping with your husband's arrest? Marissa's eyes welled with tears, but her voice remained steady. It's been a shock, of course, but I'm relieved that the truth is finally out. Curtis made his choices, and now he has to face the consequences. As the interview continued, Blake felt a strange mix of emotions. Relief that the truth was finally coming to light, sadness for the pain this would cause his children, and a gnawing worry about what would happen next. After Emily left, promising to air the interview that evening, Blake turned to Marissa. "Are you okay?" She nodded slowly. "I think so. It feels, I don't know, freeing in a way, like a weight has been lifted." Just then, Blake's phone buzzed with a text from his lawyer, Angela. "Saw the news. We need to talk about next steps for the custody battle. Can you come in tomorrow?" Blake showed the message to Marissa. "Looks like this is just the beginning." Marissa squeezed his hand. "We'll get through this, Blake. One step at a time." As she left, Blake stood at the window, watching the neighborhood come to life. He could see people gathered in small groups, no doubt discussing the scandal that had rocked their quiet town. He knew that in the coming days and weeks, he'd face scrutiny, judgment, and difficult questions from his children. But for the first time in months, he felt a glimmer of hope. The truth was out, and now he could focus on rebuilding his life and protecting his family. The family courtroom buzzed with tension as Blake sat beside his lawyer, Angela Martinez. Across the aisle, Vanessa glared at him, her once immaculate appearance now disheveled. The judge, a stern-looking woman in her 60s, called the court to order. "We're here today to determine custody arrangements for Ellie and Noah Kincaid. Mr. Kincaid is seeking full custody with restricted visitation rights for Mrs. Kincaid. Mrs. Kincaid is seeking joint custody. Let's begin with opening statements." Angela stood, her voice clear and confident. "Your Honor, we intend to show that Mrs. Kincaid's recent actions, including her affair and involvement in financial crimes, make her an unfit parent. Mr. Kincaid has been a stable and loving presence in his children's lives, and granting him full custody is in their best interest." Vanessa's lawyer, a slick-looking man in an expensive suit, countered. "Your Honor, while my client has made mistakes, she remains a loving mother. Her actions, regrettable as they may be, do not negate her ability to care for her children. We ask the court to consider joint custody as the best solution for Ellie and Noah." As witnesses were called, Blake found himself reliving the pain of the past months. Lisa took the stand first. "Ms. Grant," Angela began, "how long have you known Vanessa Kincaid?" Lisa glanced at Vanessa before answering. "Almost 10 years. We've been colleagues and friends since she started at the real estate agency." "And in your opinion, how has Mrs. Kincaid's behavior changed recently?" Lisa took a deep breath. Vanessa became distant, secretive. She'd cancel plans at the last minute, always claiming work emergencies. But now I know she was meeting Curtis. Vanessa's lawyer stood to cross-examine. "Ms. Grant, isn't it true that real estate can be a demanding career? Couldn't these emergencies have been legitimate?" Lisa hesitated. "I suppose it's possible, but—" "No further questions." The lawyer cut her off. Next, Marissa took the stand. Angela approached her gently. "Mrs. Blackwood, can you describe your interactions with Vanessa Kincaid?" Marissa nodded. "At first, I thought Vanessa was just a client of my husband's. But as I uncovered the affair and the embezzlement scheme, I realized she was actively participating in defrauding our company and planning to leave her family." Vanessa's lawyer pounced. "Mrs. Blackwood, isn't it true that you have a vested interest in painting Mrs. Kincaid in a negative light? After all, she was involved with your husband." Marissa's eyes flashed. "My interest is in the truth and in protecting innocent people, including Blake's children." As the testimonies continued, Blake found himself called to the stand. Angela smiled encouragingly. "Mr. Kincaid, can you describe your relationship with your children?" Blake's voice softened. "Ellie and Noah mean everything to me. I've always been there for them, from Little League games to science fairs. Even when things got tough with Vanessa, I made sure they felt loved and supported." "And how have you been managing since the separation?" "It's been challenging," Blake admitted, "but I've maintained their routines as much as possible. I've arranged for them to see a counselor to help process everything that's happening. Vanessa's lawyer approached, his eyes narrowed. Mr. Kincaid, isn't it true that you've been turning your children against their mother? Poisoning them with details of her affair? Blake's jaw clenched. Absolutely not. I've been honest with them in an age-appropriate way, but I've never spoken ill of Vanessa to them. They love their mother, and I respect that. As Blake stepped down, he caught Vanessa's eye. For a moment, he saw a flicker of the woman he'd once loved, looking lost and scared. But then her expression hardened, and the moment passed. Finally, the judge called a recess to review all the evidence. As they waited, Angela turned to Blake. You did well up there. I think we have a strong case. Blake nodded, his stomach in knots. I just want what's best for the kids. When court resumed, the judge cleared her throat. After careful consideration of all the evidence presented, I've reached a decision. While both parents clearly love their children, recent events have demonstrated a pattern of instability and poor judgment on Mrs. Kincaid's part. Blake held his breath as the judge continued. Therefore, I am awarding full custody to Mr. Kincaid. Mrs. Kincaid will have visitation rights, but they will be supervised until such time as she can demonstrate stability and reliability. Mr. Kincaid, I trust you will continue to foster a relationship between the children and their mother, despite the current circumstances. Blake nodded solemnly. Of course, Your Honor. As the court adjourned, Blake felt a mix of relief and sadness. He'd won, but at what cost? As he gathered his things, Vanessa approached, her eyes brimming with tears. Are you happy now? She hissed. You've taken everything from me. Blake shook his head. This isn't about happiness, Vanessa. It's about protecting our kids. I hope someday you'll understand that. As Vanessa stormed off, Angela placed a hand on Blake's shoulder. It's over, Blake. You did the right thing. Blake nodded, his voice thick with emotion. Yeah, now comes the hard part, helping the kids through this. As he left the courthouse, Blake steeled himself for the conversations ahead. He'd won the legal battle, but the emotional one was far from over. The courtroom fell silent as Curtis Blackwood was led in, handcuffed and wearing an orange jumpsuit. Blake sat in the gallery next to Marissa, both of them tense as they prepared to testify. The prosecutor, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s, stood to make her opening statement. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, over the next few days, you will hear evidence of a complex embezzlement scheme orchestrated by the defendant, Curtis Blackwood. Mr. Blackwood abused his position of trust, stealing millions from his clients and his own company. We will prove, beyond a reasonable doubt, that he is guilty of fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy. Curtis's defense attorney, a silver-haired man with a gravelly voice, countered. The prosecution's case is built on circumstantial evidence and the testimony of scorned spouses. My client is a respected businessman who fell victim to a vindictive plot. We will show that Mr. Blackwood is innocent of these charges. As the trial progressed, Blake found himself called to the stand. The prosecutor approached him. Mr. Kincaid, can you tell us how you first became aware of Mr. Blackwood's illegal activities? Blake cleared his throat. It started when I discovered my wife's affair with Curtis. As I dug deeper, I uncovered discrepancies in financial records and overheard conversations about moving large sums of money. And what did you do with this information? I brought it to Curtis's business partner, Frank Doyle. Together, we gathered more evidence and eventually contacted the authorities. The defense attorney stood for cross-examination. Mr. Kincaid, isn't it true that you had a personal vendetta against my client? That this whole case is about revenge for your wife's affair? Blake's jaw tightened. This case is about the truth. Yes, I was hurt by the affair, but the embezzlement scheme is a separate issue. I couldn't stand by and watch innocent people be defrauded. Next, Frank Doyle took the stand. The prosecutor asked, Mr. Doyle, as Mr. Blackwood's business partner, what raised your suspicions about his activities? Frank sighed. At first, it was just little things. Discrepancies in the books, clients complaining about missing funds. But when Blake came to me with his concerns, it all started to make sense. We set up a sting operation to catch Curtis in the act. The defense attorney pounced. "Mr. Doyle, isn't it true that you stood to gain from Mr. Blackwood's downfall? That you now control the company?" Frank's eyes narrowed. "I didn't want any of this. Curtis was my friend and partner, but I couldn't be complicit in illegal activities." As the trial continued, financial experts testified about the complex web of transactions Curtis had used to hide his theft. Bank records and email exchanges were presented as evidence. Finally, Marissa took the stand. The prosecutor approached her gently. "Mrs. Blackwood, this must be difficult for you. Can you tell us when you first became aware of your husband's illegal activities?" Marissa's voice shook slightly. "I had no idea at first. Curtis was always secretive about work. It wasn't until Blake came to me with evidence of the affair that I started to piece things together. When I confronted Curtis, he admitted to everything. He said it was for us, for our future. But I knew it was wrong." The defense attorney's cross-examination was brutal. "Mrs. Blackwood, isn't it true that you were aware of and benefited from your husband's financial gains? That you enjoyed a lavish lifestyle funded by this alleged embezzlement?" Marissa's eyes flashed. "I enjoyed the lifestyle my husband's legitimate business provided. I had no idea he was stealing. If I had known, I would have turned him in myself." As the trial neared its end, closing arguments were made. The prosecutor painted a damning picture of Curtis's greed and deception, while the defense tried to cast doubt on the motivations of the witnesses. Finally, the jury was sent to deliberate. Blake and Marissa waited anxiously in the hallway. "Do you think they'll convict him?" Marissa asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Blake squeezed her hand. "The evidence is strong. We have to trust the system." Hours passed before the jury returned. As the verdict was read, Blake held his breath. "On the charge of embezzlement, we find the defendant, Curtis Blackwood, guilty. On the charge of fraud, we find the defendant guilty. On the charge of conspiracy, we find the defendant guilty." A collective gasp went through the courtroom. Curtis slumped in his chair, his face ashen. The judge's voice cut through the murmurs. "Mr. Blackwood, please rise for sentencing." Curtis stood, his legs shaking visibly. "Curtis Blackwood, your actions have caused immeasurable harm to your clients, your business partners, and your community. You abuse your position of trust for personal gain, showing a callous disregard for others. I hereby sentence you to 15 years in federal prison, with no possibility of parole for 10 years. You are also ordered to pay restitution to your victims in the amount of $5.2 million. As Curtis was led away, Blake turned to Marissa. "It's over. Really over." Marissa nodded, tears in her eyes. "I know I should feel relieved, but I just feel empty." Blake put an arm around her shoulders. "It's okay to feel conflicted. He was your husband. But you did the right thing, Marissa. We both did." As they left the courthouse, reporters swarmed around them. Blake raised a hand to shield Marissa from the cameras. "No comment," he said firmly, guiding her through the crowd. Once they were clear, Marissa turned to Blake. "What happens now?" Blake sighed. "Now, we try to move forward, one day at a time." As they parted ways, Blake felt a weight lift from his shoulders. The long nightmare was finally over. Now came the hard part, rebuilding his life and helping his children heal. 6 months later, Blake stood in front of his newly opened auto repair shop, Kincaid's Honest Mechanics. The fresh paint gleamed in the morning sun as he unlocked the doors for another day of business. His phone buzzed with a text from Brenda. "Grand opening day. So proud of you, little brother. I'll bring coffee and donuts later." Blake smiled, typing back a quick thanks. As he entered the shop, he heard a familiar voice. "Dad, can I sweep the floor again?" Noah called from the small office area. Blake ruffled his son's hair. "Sure, buddy. Just be careful around the tools, okay?" Ellie looked up from her homework spread across the desk. "Dad, Can we go to the park later? I finished my science project early. That's great, sweetheart. We'll definitely go if it's not too busy here. As Blake started setting up for the day, the bell over the door chimed. Marissa walked in, carrying a stack of flyers. Morning, Blake. I brought those promotional flyers we talked about. Blake grinned. Thanks, Marissa. How's the new business going? Marissa's eyes lit up. The bakery's doing well. I never thought I'd enjoy it so much, but it's been healing, I guess. Creating something positive after everything that happened. They were interrupted by another customer entering. Blake recognized him as a regular. Morning, Mr. Johnson. How's that transmission holding up? As Blake got to work, he marveled at how much had changed. The shop was doing well, thanks to his reputation for honest work and the community's support. Marissa had found her passion in baking, turning her hobby into a successful small business. Later that afternoon, as promised, Brenda arrived with coffee and donuts. Look at you, Mr. Businessman, she teased, setting the boxes on the counter. Blake laughed. Hardly. Just trying to make an honest living. Brenda's expression softened. Mom and Dad would be so proud of you, Blake. You've come through so much. Blake nodded, his throat tight. Couldn't have done it without you, sis. As they chatted, Blake noticed a woman hesitantly entering the shop. She had kind eyes and a warm smile. Can I help you? Blake asked. The woman nodded. I'm Rachel, the new counselor at Ellie and Noah's school. I just wanted to stop by and introduce myself. I've heard great things about your shop. Blake felt an unexpected flutter in his chest. Oh, thanks. It's nice to meet you, Rachel. How are the kids doing in school? Rachel's smile widened. They're wonderful, resilient, and kind. You should be proud. As they talked, Blake found himself enjoying Rachel's company. She was intelligent and compassionate, genuinely interested in his children's well-being. After Rachel left, Brenda raised an eyebrow at Blake. She seems nice. Blake felt his cheeks warm. Yeah, she does. As the day wound down, Blake closed up shop and headed home with the kids. While he prepared dinner, he thought about how far they'd come. Ellie set the table, chattering about her science project. Noah proudly showed off the sweeping he'd done at the shop. Dad, Ellie said suddenly, her voice serious. Are you happy now? Blake paused, considering the question. You know what, sweetie? I think I am. It's been a tough road, but we're doing okay, aren't we? Both kids nodded enthusiastically. And Mom? Noah asked quietly. Blake sighed. Your mom's working on getting better. Remember, we're seeing her this weekend for your supervised visit. It'll take time, but we're all healing. As they ate dinner, laughing and sharing stories from their day, Blake felt a sense of peace wash over him. Life wasn't perfect, but it was good. They were moving forward, one day at a time. Later that night, as Blake tucked the kids into bed, his phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. It was great meeting you today. Would you like to grab coffee sometime? Blake smiled, typing back a response. I'd like that. How about Saturday after the kids visit with their mom? As he set the phone down, Blake felt a glimmer of hope for the future. He had his children, his sister, good friends like Marissa, and maybe, just maybe, a chance at new love with Rachel. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for now, Blake was content. He'd weathered the storm, protected his children, and come out stronger on the other side. As he drifted off to sleep, he felt truly at peace for the first time in a long while. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.